Good morning, Los Angeles. Good morning. Let's do that again. Good morning, Los Angeles. Good morning. Give yourself a round of applause for being here today. Come on, you can do better than that. You can do better than that for yourself. My name is Tavis Smiley, and my principal objective at the moment is to welcome you to the 32nd Annual Empowerment Congress Summit. Moments from now, we will commence a candidate forum for those persons who want to be the district attorney for Los Angeles County. The current DA, Mr. Gascon, is here, and there are 6 persons challenging him who are here as well today. And again, in a matter of moments, we will commence a forum, a DA forum with those candidates. I will be pleased to be joined in this forum today by my friend and colleague, Giselle Fernandez of Spectrum One. So Giselle and I will take the helm of trying to navigate these 7 lawyers. God help us all in this forum today. But I, as a talk show host here on KBLA Talk 1580, wanted to welcome you to this gathering and let you know that this forum for the next 2 hours will be broadcast live over at KBLA Talk 1580. And we are honored, along with Spectrum One, to be the media sponsors of this gathering today. Giselle can tell you later about when you can actually see this on Spectrum, but today, for the next 2 hours, you'll hear it live here on KBLA Talk 1580. It is my honor now to introduce the co-chair of this year's summit, Sonia Vasquez, and Giselle and I will return moments from now to commence this DA forum on KBLA Talk 1580. Please welcome Sonia Vasquez.
Thank you, Tavis. Good morning and welcome to the 2024 Empowerment Congress Summit. My name is Sonia Vasquez. I'm a co-chair for the Empowerment Congress, and it is my pleasure to extend my greetings on behalf of our Leadership Council and all the EC activists who have joined us in what has become a signature gathering and observance of the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. holiday weekend. Our theme today is Pursuing Justice Through Participatory Democracy, and we hope it is a worthy tribute to the historical figure who reminded us that an injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Before I introduce our host for the day, permit me to ask everyone to offer a warm thanks to the jazz combo of the Inner City Youth Orchestra of Los Angeles, directed by Chuck Dickerson. The young, talented musicians are no stranger to the Empowerment Congress, and we are happy to have them return this year to contribute some cultural flavor to the serious business we intend to conduct today. So thank you again. Before we begin the summit, there are a few items of business. Please turn off your phones or silence them unless you're recording them or you're recording on them or posting onto social media. If you are posting onto social media, please use the hashtags that appear on the screen here behind me. All the biographies of our program participants and other important information can be found by scanning the QR code in the program booklet on page 2. We are honored again to be hosted by the Charles Drew University of Medicine and Science, which continues to win accolades for its commitment to diversity, public health, academic excellence, groundbreaking research, and support of the surrounding community. We are being welcomed today by Dr. Deborah Prothro-Stith, Dean and Professor at the College of Medicine here at CDU. She is an internationally recognized public health leader, researcher, and author who has greatly influenced how we see violence as a public health issue. Her biography can be read via the QR code I just mentioned. She will then be followed by several distinguished elected officials who will appear in the order identified in the program. They have come to extend additional greetings and acknowledge your presence and your work as civic activists. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in greeting Dr. Deborah Prothro-Stith for an official welcome from our venue host.
Good morning. Good Saturday morning to you. On behalf of Charles Drew University of Medicine and Science, our trustees, our president, Dr. David Carlisle, I welcome you to our campus. We are honored that you are here again, And it really is important to us that you come again. Thank you for being here. Thank you. We are a 57-year-old institution. We have 3 colleges here. The College of Nursing, our largest, which offers bachelor's and master's and even a doctorate in nursing. We have our College of Science and Health, which offers bachelor's and master's in biomedical sciences and in public health, and a physician assistant program. And we have our College of Medicine, where we just opened our own medical school here in South Los Angeles. We got it going on in South LA, and you are our partners. The community owns this institution, and with that partnership and that support, we are successful. It's not my task to welcome our VIPs and elected officials individually, but I must say to them, thank you. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your financial support. Thank you for being here. Without you, we couldn't do this. And finally, to the 32nd Empowerment Congress. It is so important that you do the work that you do. The co-chairs, the co-hosts, the sponsors, let's give them a round of applause. This is so important. And I don't know if you sometimes feel the way I feel, like there's a little bit of a rollback and certainly a threat to our gains and our leaders. So this Empowerment Congress is focused on helping us protect our gains and protect our leaders from the systemic rollback that seems to be happening. So thank you for being here. And welcome again.
Please welcome Lindsay Horvath, Supervisor, 3rd District, and Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors Chairperson.
It is so exciting to be here. Always a thrill to be in a crowd as enthusiastic, as accomplished, and as committed as you all are to making a difference in our community and celebrating this wonderful weekend that means so much to us here in the community and throughout our country. I am now the chair of the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors. The youngest chair ever in history. Yeah, I know. And it's kind of crazy, I will be honest. But I mention that not as a personal superlative, but to remind us of the importance of young voices. And there's no better example of that than Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who in his few but mighty years transformed a landscape for all of us in our country, making sure that Black voices were heard and understood and listened to and empowered, making sure that young people's voices are being listened to and helping to shape the future that we will live in for so many years. And so I just want to thank all of you for welcoming me so warmly, for giving me the opportunity to be in community with you, to serve Los Angeles County as a 3rd District Supervisor and now as Chair, and to work in partnership with you to truly bring empowerment to Los Angeles County. Thank you.
Up next, Emma Sharif, Mayor, City of Compton.
Good morning, good morning. 32 years, you guys. This has been a long time. Yes, I am Emma Sharif, and I am the mayor of the great city of Compton. And And I am truly honored to be here today as a special guest at the 32nd Annual Empowerment Congress Summit. Yes, man, this has been a ride. I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude to the organizers for inviting me and for the incredible work they're doing to foster community empowerment. This year's theme, Pursuing Justice Through Participatory Democracy, resonates deeply with me. It underscores the importance of active citizen engagement, education, and understanding complex systems in our collective journey toward justice. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy, especially during this national holiday weekend, serves as a powerful reminder of the ongoing fight for justice, equality, and empowerment. I want to take a moment to express my enduring support for the Endowment Congress. I've been a supporter for a long time now, and it's been truly inspiring to witness the organization's growth and impact. Our long-standing partnership reflects a shared commitment to educating, engaging, and empowering our communities. I would also like to take this moment to express my gratitude to the former Board of Supervisors, Mark Riley Thomas. Please. Yes, 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 yes. For his foresight in recognizing the necessity of developing, searching, an impactful annual summit exemplified by the Empowerment Congress Summit. As we come together today, I encourage each of you to actively participate, ask questions, and absorb the knowledge and insights shared during this summit. I hope that we continue the conversations that we have today and use this momentum to continue to spread words into our communities. Thank you again for inviting me, and I look forward to a day filled with enlightening discussions and opportunities for us to strengthen our communities' bonds. Thank you so much.
Our next speaker, Representative Sidney Kamlager, California 37th Congressional District.
Protection for gangs, clubs, and nations, causing grief in human relations. It's a turf war on a global scale. I'd rather hear both sides of the tale. See, it's not about races, just places,
Hello,
faces.
how are
where your
you?
blood comes from is where your
Good
space
morning.
is.
Well, it is almost as cold here as it is in Washington, D.C., but it is certainly not as crazy here, so I am very happy to be back home. I am Congresswoman Sidney Kamlager Dove, representing the great 37th Congressional District. And I am so honored to be here with you at the 32nd Annual Empowerment Congress Summit. I can think of no better way to observe the weekend ahead of Dr. Martin Luther King than to honor the legacy of his work by participating in an event like this, focused on justice, focused on democracy, committed to community. As you know, the Empowerment Congress is a powerful model of civic engagement built on the core principles of participatory democracy, reciprocal accountability, and intentional civility. Participatory democracy, reciprocal accountability, and intentional civility. Community groups, small businesses, nonprofit organizations, churches, and our fellow neighbors coming together, building valuable connections, all while strengthening their ability to advocate for their community needs. This is exactly what Dr. King and other icons of the civil rights movement were thinking about when they were fighting for racial and economic equality. Dr. King was a friend of one of our icons, Reverend Lawson, Pastor Emeritus at Holman. They were lions for justice and equality during the civil rights movement. And after Dr. King's murder, Reverend Lawson channeled his legacy of dialogue and democracy and justice in his work with the labor movement here to fight for reproductive rights in Los Angeles. So today we are emulating Dr. King and Reverend Lawson's selfless pursuit of equality and unity. So during this summit, you see all these names. We're going to hear from candidates for the Los Angeles County District Attorney and their plans for actualizing justice in our city because we need it. You will also get the opportunity to participate in a community teach-in on the criminal justice system and discuss how to support those most marginalized in our communities. By sharing your voice, by participating in these conversations, you are continuing Dr. King's footsteps and advancing justice here in our community. So I want to thank the Empowerment Congress, the team, everyone here, all of the volunteers who worked so hard to put it together. Dr. King modeled how to live in service to others, using his platform to elevate the concerns and hopes of a diverse community and providing a voice to those who've been excluded from public dialogue for far too long. I also want to elevate former Supervisor Mark Ridley Thomas. He too has modeled how to live in service to others, how to speak truth to power, how to create platforms to elevate our voice, how to keep us at the table, and to show us what resiliency looks like when you are fighting for our community. I want to thank you all for choosing to spend your morning here with us at the Empowerment Congress and really showing your support to the founder of this platform, which has created a space for all of us to be seen. Thank you.
Please welcome Dr. Mark Ridley Thomas, founder of the Empowerment Congress.
People, keep on learning. Soldiers, keep on moving. Whoa, keep on turning. 'Cause it won't be too long.
My, we're all the way live, getting ready to go live on KBLA Talk Radio. My time is abbreviated. I pose one question. It's the same question I posed for some 32 years. Is the Empowerment Congress in the house this morning? I believe you can be a little bit more persuasive than that. Is the Empowerment Congress in the house this morning? Repeat after me if you would. Educate, engage, and empower. And that's essentially why we're here today. We are expressing our attempt to update the vocabulary of nonviolence, expanding the parameters of democracy as articulated by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We speak the language of empowerment. We speak the language of dialogue. We speak the language of equity. We speak the language of courage. We speak the language of resolve. We speak the language that we ain't gonna fall back, but we're gonna stand up and do what we need to do to make our communities better. Shout out to Avis Ridley Thomas. She's in the house. We honor her. A lot of good work, a lot of important work going on, a lot of activity happening. Question has been, well, Ridley Thomas, what you been up to? Look around the room and answer that question. This is what I've been up to. I'm doing what I have been assigned to do. I'm doing what we all ought to use the gift that we have been afforded and endowed with to expand the possibility, deepen the respect that we have for all people, irrespective of their differences, age, gender, orientation. We believe Martin Luther King's message is the dignity and worth of all people. And that's why we are here on the Empowerment Congress agenda today. And so, participatory democracy means a lot. I conclude by invoking the name of Marian Wright Edelman with the Children's Defense Fund, trying to push the movement way into the future with young people who understand what it means to stand up for justice and be the best that they can be. She often would convene a tent just like this, with a range of people and say, following her tradition, well, we got preachers in the house. We got teachers in the house. We got media in the house. We got candidates in the house. We have journalists in the house. And the house is packed. 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 It's packed for justice. It's packed for peace. It's packed for reciprocal accountability. It's packed for you and for me, for us to take our place, positioned properly in the context of Los Angeles and beyond, and said we ain't gonna never let the clock be turned back on us because the house is packed.
We can work it out. We can work it out.
Somebody who knows something about packing the house, he would be a distinguished presence. You saw him on CNN just the other night representing. You hear him on KBLA doing what he does. He's no stranger to the Empowerment Congress and the fight for justice. And he is joined by one who has her own story and her own narrative. And we are delighted to have them both here. Please welcome the one and only Tavis Smiley and the inimitable Giselle Fernandez.
While you see it your way, there's a chance that we might fall apart before too long. We can work it out. We can work it out. Life is very
One more time for
short,
MRT.
and there's no time.
You know you're a bad Negro when they know you about 3 letters. I've been working on TES my whole life and ain't nobody said it yet. But MRT just works, and I ain't mad at it. Let me thank MRT and the Empowerment Congress for inviting me back again this year to be involved in this historic event, the 32nd year. And I'm awfully pleased to be a part of this candidate forum for those running for DA. And I am just thankful that you considered to invite us back this year. This year, we're very excited because, as you know, we are live right now on KBLA Talk 1580, the only black-owned talk radio station west of the Mississippi. And we are honored to be able to, along with Spectrum One, be the media sponsors for today's conversation. You will hear from Giselle in a moment, and she'll tell you more about how you can see this in the days ahead on Spectrum. But we are pleased again to be live right now on KBLA Talk 1580. The Empowerment Congress recognizes the significance of this position to our region's efforts to enhance equity, improve public safety, meaningfully address homelessness, and enforce, interpret, and prosecute the violations of law. That's why they are out front today hosting this DA candidate forum, and it's why we are focusing on this race today, because they understand how important, I dare say this was likely the most important race, certainly locally on the ballot this time around. And again, we're delighted, Giselle and I are, to be here as your co-moderators of this forum. These summits that I've been a part of before at the Empowerment Congress have become the signature policy-oriented conversations around this time every year. There's no organization that leads us into a dialogue at this time of the season where we celebrate the person I regard as the greatest American this country's ever produced. That's my view, that Dr. King is the greatest American we've ever produced, and it's only the EC, the Empowerment Congress, that every year hosts us for a summit about the things that matter on an important weekend such as this. So please give it up to the Empowerment Congress for every year standing in the gap, as it were, and doing the work that needs to be done. I want to make my remarks brief because I want to get right to these candidates. I know they've come today. There are 7 of them here. We want to give them as much time as we can here on KBLA Talk 1580. So let me abbreviate my comments and introduce now my friend Giselle Fernandez. It's a funny story. Giselle and I, many years ago, had the same agent, and we never met. And over the years, we've been in spaces, but never really hung out. Leave it to the Empowerment Congress to finally bring the two of us together. I've been a fan of hers for many, many years. She does an excellent job every morning on Spectrum One, and we finally, after having the same agent 30 years ago, get to finally work together. Please welcome Giselle Fernandez.
Express yourself.
Good morning, everyone. Buenos dias.
Express yourself.
First of all, the greatest music of any kind of candidate forum I've ever been to, so thank you very much. The Empowerment Congress lives up to its great reputation of spirit, participatory democracy. We need it now more than ever. Thank you so much. Spectrum News One is so thrilled to be here. TS from now on. Really lovely to work with you. Another badass guy up here, talking truth to power, and that's what we need today more than ever. I'm delighted to be here. I've heard about the Empowerment Congress. I've been invited before, never was able to make it with my schedule, and it matters so much what you do. This morning, we have a wonderful opportunity to hear from the candidates who are running to be your major chief prosecutor. It matters more than ever. This is a city of 10 million people. It's the largest prosecutor's office in the country, employs over 2,000 people, $500 billion with a B dollar budget. And the priorities that one of these candidates set is going to impact our communities, our neighborhoods directly. Our sense of safety, just as human beings, matters. Residents want to feel safe going to their places of worship, buying fruits on the street, going to the market, sending their kids to school. And whether perception is reality or not, many of us do not feel safe. And we want to, but we also want to make sure that justice is done equitably and distributed equitably. And why does it matter? Our sense of safety impacts everything. Investments in our communities, real estate, economic opportunity. It matters that we feel safe on our streets. And while this LA DA's race is our city's DA race, the eyes of the nation will be watching. It taps into a zeitgeist of concern across the nation, of cities in decline because of a perception of rising crime rates. Taking aim particularly at liberal reforms that some believe are to blame for making our cities less safe. Just 4 years ago, after the murder of George Floyd, there was a growing national movement demanding that law enforcement have reform, root out systemic racism in the criminal justice system, hold rogue police accountable for abuses. Today, that political climate has changed. Now, many on this stage that you will be hearing from say those very reforms that have been put in place in this city have made us less safe. And many of the candidates today are demanding a stronger crackdown on crime and a repeal of those reforms. And I think it's just worth mentioning, we will get to them, reforms that include limiting the use of enhancements for gang crimes and firearms, not charging juveniles as adults, reforms many blame for making the city crime-ridden. But do the statistics bear out? The latest data shows, like much of the country, violent crimes like murder and rape are down 18%, 19% respectively. Burglary, property crimes, car theft, personal crimes are all up. But perception of rampant crime and citizens feeling less safe is the lens on which many are looking at this critical race. Again, perception is reality. And what voters are looking for today is not only how the next DA will serve as chief prosecutor, but how they rebuild trust in the legal process and our judicial system. We are fortunate to have 7 of the 11 candidates, major candidates with us today. 4 are deputy DAs running against their boss, 3 are here. Today our goal is to have them distinguish themselves for all of you and how their leadership would be different than the rest and how it would transform the city and make it safer for us all. TS?
I'm liking it. It's working. It's working. Spectrum News One, I should say, as you know, is a 24/7 hyper-local content network focused on delivering news and information that addresses the issues shaping Southern California with a deep focus on local communities and politics. Spectrum News One is available exclusively to Spectrum subscribers across Southern California on Channel One. Don't ever say I didn't shout out Spectrum News One on KBLA Talk 1580.
On what network? What is it?
Yeah, Spectrum News One. Yeah, I got it. All right, before we get these candidates on the stage here and get this party started, this candidate forum today is sponsored not just by KBLA Talk 1580 and Spectrum News One, but there are a number of organizations who've made this day possible alongside the Empowerment Congress. Please thank, after I read the entire list, only 6 of them, the AME Ministerial Alliance, the Baptist Ministers Conference of Los Angeles and Southern California, the NAACP Los Angeles branch, South Los Angeles Clergy for Public Accountability, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference in Southern California, and the District Attorneys Accountability Coalition. Please thank them all for making this candidate forum possible. All right, the fun begins. I'm going to ask those 7 candidates to take the stage. Please come this way. You can see your names on the podiums. So we'll see who's smart enough to stand in the right place. So candidates, make your way to the stage. Giselle and I are going to get back to our seats and get this party started. Give them a round of applause as they come in.
When you're dead, you're done. You better let the good time roll.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Good. All right, our mics are out. Let me give you some rules for how we're going to do this, and I will yield to the gentlelady from Spectrum News One to commence this conversation today. Each candidate will have an opportunity to make an opening statement of no more than 90 seconds. They have pulled names to pre-select the order in which they will speak. We will introduce them to you properly at the onset of their opening remarks. They're going to be asked a range of questions today, selected by Giselle, yours truly, and by the Empowerment Congress, most specifically. Each candidate is given 1 minute to respond to each question, as I said earlier. They appear on stage, as you see, left to right in alphabetical order, but they will speak in the order that they've chosen out of the hat so that we can be fair about this process. Time permitting, Giselle and I may have a couple follow-up questions. We shall see. I'm going to keep you honest and hold you accountable, so there may be some follow-ups. We'll see how that works out, as I said. At the end, each candidate will be given 1 minute for a closing statement, and we ask the audience to refrain today from applause, refrain from interrupting, refrain from verbally reacting to comments. We want to give everybody a fair chance to be heard, and you don't want me to snatch you out of here today. So, in love on the King holiday weekend, I would do it in love.
Non-violently.
Non-violently, but I would do it in love, yes. But you will get some gone if you start interrupting. That said, I yield now to Giselle Fernandez to introduce and ask the first question of Mr. Chemerinsky.
Thank you very much, T.S. Former Assistant U.S. Attorney Jeff Chemerinsky served as chief of the Violent and Organized Crime section of the United States Attorney's Office in L.A., and he stepped down to become a candidate. He has never lost a case, having personally prosecuted cases involving murder, sex and firearms, trafficking, corruption, and sex assault offenses. He's led prosecutions involving organized retail theft cases and won gang member convictions, including the leader of MS-13 in LA and the leader of the East Coast Crips. Welcome. Please give us your opening statement.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the Empowerment Congress for hosting this great event. It's great to be here with you all this morning. I really have great respect for the Empowerment Congress and its great role within the community. I think community engagement is incredibly important, and it's an important role for the district attorney. As you just heard, I'm Jeff Chemerinsky. I grew up here in Los Angeles. Along with my wife, I'm raising our 3 kids here in Los Angeles. I care deeply about this area and its future. I want it to be safe for all of us. I also want a system of justice that we all can be proud of, that's fair for everybody. I've spent the last 9.5 years as a federal prosecutor, as an assistant United States attorney here in Los Angeles, working on big, generally violent crime cases. Most recently, I served as the chief of the Violent and Organized Crime section, overseeing all violent and organized crime prosecutions for the United States Attorney's Office. I launched this campaign for district attorney with 3 major platforms or goals. First is public safety. The #1 priority of the district attorney has to be to prosecute crime and to keep our public safe. I think the reality right now is that many people don't feel safe in our area. My second goal or priority is criminal justice reform. I believe I can be a more effective and better reformer than our current district attorney. I think many people, like they've lost confidence in our district attorney to keep them safe, has lost confidence in him to provide effective criminal justice reform.
Give us your third answer. Go ahead, give us your third.
And third and finally, I'm running to provide new leadership and accountability for the district attorney's office. I believe I have the vision, the energy, and the experience to hit the ground running on day one.
Thank you very much. Our next candidate is Superior Court Judge retired David S. Milton. Retired Judge Milton served 24 years as L.A. Superior Court Judge. Before his appointment, Milton spent 12 years working as a criminal prosecutor with nearly a decade as Deputy District Attorney for L.A. County. If elected, job one is to bring back law and order, he says, a lifelong Republican. Judge Milton was among the youngest judges in the state appointed by Governor George Deukmejian. He claims to be the only Republican in the field. Your opening comment, Judge Milton.
Thank you very much for having me today. I want to take a moment to just tell you what David Milton is about. Let me tell you, I was born in Pasadena, but my parents moved to Indiana when I was an infant. I grew up there. Now, if you think back, at that time, the country was very racially tense. Think about the 60s and the 70s. I grew up there. I'm sensitive to those issues. And after suffering a lot of the indignities during the 60s and 70s in Indiana, I returned to California, my birthplace. I began my legal career as a LA County Deputy District Attorney. I spent 9 years in that office, and I handled some of the most difficult cases you could handle in any jurisdiction, state or federal, in the entire country. I'm the most experienced candidate here. I spent career criminal, hardcore, all the deputy in charge of Downey. I then was appointed judge of the Los Angeles Municipal Court. I served 5 years on that court, then chief assistant prosecutor in Indianapolis, again, handling the most difficult cases, death verdicts, and all those types of things. And then 24 years as a judge, total time on the court, 24 years. I've handled both criminal, civil, everything that the courts handle, I've handled those types of matters. And I urge you to support my candidacy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Judge. Our next candidate is Los Angeles District Attorney George Gascon, former LAPD patrol officer, assistant chief of police, San Francisco chief of police, and district attorney, who was elected LA District Attorney in 2020. He says he is pursuing policies based on science, data, and research to change the criminal legal system and build a national model of criminal justice reform that supports and restores crime victims and survivors while addressing the hard truths of mass incarceration, racism, and social systemic inequities. Mr. Gascon.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
You know, about 4 years ago, I was elected on a platform that said that safety and reform travel on the same lane. They're not separable. And we immediately, when I was elected, we went on to do the work. We went on to make sure that we stopped putting people on death row. This county put more people on death row than multiple southern states. We went on to say that 16-year-olds did not belong in prison with 50-year-olds. And we stopped putting young kids into the adult system. We went on to say that we will hold police accountable, and we have done so. We went on to say that incarceration must be done with discretion, and yes, some people need to be locked up, but we have to be very careful and use incarceration as a very limited form of solution. And we said that crime could come down with reform, and in fact, it has. The numbers speak for themselves. They're not my numbers. They're the Department of Justice number. We have engaged in the most significant reform effort in the history of the county, and we have seen crime coming down from the COVID heights, and we will continue to do so, and I will be honored to have your support to continue to do the work.
Thank you, Mr. Gascon. Maria, if I can say it, Maria Ramirez. Thank you. Couldn't get it out. The district attorney's office has been there since 1990. She's the first Latina to be promoted to head deputy and bureau director level. For the past 3 decades, she's been a steadfast advocate for all victims of crimes with a focus in prosecuting gang violence and drug trafficking. As director of specialized prosecution, she oversaw operations for 7 divisions, including major crimes, hardcore gang, sex crimes, and family violence. She brings courtroom and trial experience with top management experience. Ms. Ramirez, your opening statement.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for having us here. Looking forward to meeting all of you. My name is Maria Ramirez, and I am a lifelong Angelino. I was born and raised in Boyle Heights area of Los Angeles, and I joined the district attorney's office more than 33 years ago because I grew up in a neighborhood that was gang-ridden, that we were experiencing a significant amount of violence. And I saw the faces of the hardworking men and women that I lived with, that I worked with, and I wanted to do something about that. And I tell you this because I want you all to know who I am and where I come from, and the fact that I understand what LA County is facing today. We are a very complicated LA County. Our residents and our communities are complicated because we want to see that our families and that our children grow up in an area that is safe for them, that they are safe to go to school, that they are safe to go to work. And intertwined with that is our desire to consistently improve the criminal justice system so that we are a conduit for helping those that turn to criminal behavior. And unless you're doing your utmost to prioritize both public safety and reform measures, you are not doing your job to protect the very complicated nature of our communities. And I, with my experience, can do that for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ramirez.
Giselle!
What happened to me? It's contagious.
Yeah.
All right, well, next here from Eric Sedal is a deputy DA and violent crime prosecutor who has prosecuted some of the most complex and impactful cases in the most underserved communities in LA County. Most recently, Eric successfully convicted the killer of LAPD officer Paul Verna. Eric served as vice president of the LA Association of Deputy District Attorneys for nearly a decade, and in his role with the union, he successfully sued LA District Attorney George Gascon. Your opening statement, please.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. First of all, it is wonderful to be back in the Compton Watts area. I have proudly served this area for most of my professional career, so coming here felt like a homecoming. I didn't need Google Maps to tell me where to come to. I was like a honing pigeon. So it's really great to be back here. I noticed some of our other candidates weren't able to be here. Maybe their Google Maps didn't work. I don't know. So let me tell you about what my vision is. First of all, I represent a new generation of prosecutors, one that does not believe that the current approach is working, but also one that does not believe that we need to go back to the past. We do not need to go back to the past of ineffective policies. We want to take approach, this new generation of prosecutors wants to take the approach of being able to implement a crime reduction and violence reduction strategy that targets the drivers of crime while minimizing the impact of incarceration. We can also take the lead in terms of mental health issues. That is sorely missing. That leadership is lacking in Los Angeles County. We need 3,500 beds to be able to put people who are mentally ill and violent in a safe setting. Can I just make one more point since you gave it to Chemerinsky?
Of course, go on. We're starting early.
Okay. I also think that we need to have a strategy that engages with the homeless instead of simply ignoring them like the current administration. Thank you for being here. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Hey, we had that conversation, y'all. We had that conversation. No applause. We're going to be fair to everybody on the stage. Everybody say amen? Amen. All right. I trying to be nice. I asked you not to do that.
No, you did. You laid out the ground rules.
Don't make me go Watts on you today. John McKinney is a seasoned prosecutor with a deep commitment to justice and equality. He has been a deputy DA for LA County for 25 years. A UCLA law graduate, he hails from a working class background. He secured a first-degree murder conviction of Eric Holder Jr., who murdered Grammy Award-winning rapper Nipsey Hussle. He is dedicated to a comprehensive and fair approach to law enforcement and community well-being in LA. Mr. McKinney, your opening statement.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
I want to tell you a story. On a morning much like this, many years ago now, I was driving my sister in the car. We were headed to the campus of the UCLA School of Law. And I looked over at my sister and I said, "How did we get here?" And she had a smile etched in her face, and she just looked up at the sky. That was her response. See, young men like me don't typically get to one of the finest law schools in the world and graduate from institutions like that. I was born in a low-income, high-crime environment. My mother died when I was 2 years old. I don't even remember the soft feel of her face or the texture of her hair. My father died when I was in kindergarten. And that sister that I told you about, she raised me and 5 other children by herself, a single black female raising 5 kids in the 70s and 80s. It was difficult. But she instilled in me the values that I carry forth today and that helped me be the prosecutor that I've been for you for over 25 years. That's fair, that's just, and that's proportional. And that's what we need in Los Angeles. We need proportional justice, reasonableness. We need to hold people accountable, but we got to be smart about it and we got to be balanced about it. And that's what my campaign is about.
Thank you very much. And now, Judge Deborah Archuleta, your opening statement.
You read my background about me or anything?
Oh, I'm sorry. Right.
I'm glad I'm paying attention this morning.
I'm just mesmerized.
As she said, like a judge giving an order, read my background.
You just need
I got a story,
Judge.
story too, like everybody else.
Yes, Your Honor. We will read your background.
Overruled.
Yes.
With pleasure. Los Angeles County Superior Court Judge Deborah Archuleta is a veteran LA County prosecutor who ascended to the bench in 2016. Judge Archuleta promises that violent criminals will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law if she is elected. She earned her JD from Western State University College of Law at night, and then on the weekends while working in the LA County District Attorney's Office as a certified law clerk. Please, your opening statement.
All right, thank you. Court is in session. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Judge Deborah Archuleta. I have one question for you. Are we safer now than we were 3 years ago? Okay, well, some people think differently, but I respect your opinion. I didn't go to a fancy law school because I put myself through law school at night and on the weekends working as a legal secretary. At the age of 19, I was the victim of a violent domestic violence incident. And for 2 years, unbeknownst to me, while I was trying to go to college and make something of myself, I had a blood clot growing on my brain due to being thrown into a wall by a violent boyfriend at the age of 19. When I was 21 years old, I had to have a subdural hematoma. We are here in a medical school setting. Everybody knows that's a blood clot on the brain. After I survived that, I made a pact and a commitment that I would serve other victims of violent crime, including domestic violence and abuse. And I worked as a legal secretary while I put myself through community college and UC Irvine Law School. I went to work in the district attorney's office in 1989, and I spent 28 years there, 26 as a prosecutor. And I passed the bar the first time, which was a pivotal moment in my career after working as a secretary. I spent 26 years working as a prosecutor, trying all kinds of cases, and for the last 7 years, I've sat as a judge at the Children's Court dealing with the foster care system and the abuses. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Archuleta. Just a reminder, we started with 90-second opening remarks to give you a little bit more time. I apologize to the candidates and to the audience and to those listening on KBLA right now. that these questions that we're about to start asking only allow for 60-second responses. There shouldn't be so many of y'all running. We'd have more time. But there are 60-second responses to these questions, so please work with us. The clock has been reset. You'll hear the same tone that you've heard so far when you have reached your limit. That said, these candidates will continue to speak in the same order you heard them with the opening remarks because they pulled these numbers. This is the order that they pulled, so they'll speak in the same order. When we get to closing comments, we will go in the reverse for closing comments at the very end. So now, to start this round of questions, 60-second responses, Giselle Fernandez.
All right, we start with Jeff Chemerinsky. And the opening question is this: what is the number one action you will take on day one that differentiates you from the rest, that you think will make this city safer? Please be specific.
Thank you. I want to use this question to really talk about leadership style and the type of leader I would be. I believe that many of the failures of our current district attorney go to his failure to collaborate with law enforcement and with other members of the community. As a leader and as the district attorney of Los Angeles, I'd collaborate both with members of the community, with law enforcement, and with the district attorneys within the office. I believe that to be effective, the district attorney needs to be a collaborator, and that's exactly who I would be. My campaign's been endorsed by civil rights leader and lawyer Connie Rice. And I would encourage each of you to go on my website and look at what she said in endorsing me. What she wrote is that Jeff Chemerinsky is the collaborator and reformer that our county needs, that he's someone as a leader who could bring people along with him. And I believe that to bring about change, to make sure that we prioritize public safety and reform, we need someone who can effectively collaborate. And that's the type of leader I would be.
Judge Milton, same question on day one, sir. What would you do to make this city, this county safer?
Let me comment that I was raised in a Judeo-Christian family. We went to church 4 or 5 times a week. I had to be forced to go, but I went. And to tell you this, those values are still with me today. I believe them very strongly. The Lord guides me, and I'm a person of integrity and in fairness. The principles, those values will always be with me. And if you look at my website, miltonforda.com, what's the number one thing that pops up on my platform? Hate crimes. Now, where does that come from? What does hate crimes mean? It means a crime motivated against an individual because of his religion, his gender, his ethnicity. Those things won't happen under my watch. I intend to hit that number one, the things that are happening to the Jewish kids, the African American churches being burned, and Asians. That's my number one. I will file those enhancements.
Thank you very much. DA George Gascon, you're next. What's the number one action you will take on day one if reelected to make our city safer?
Thank you. As you heard earlier today, crime is down, and those are not George Gascon's numbers. Those are the Department of Justice number. And crime is down at the same time that we have engaged in a reform effort in this county that is completely unprecedented. If I were to be honored with being reelected, we will continue on the path of not only changing the culture of the district attorney's office to get to a 21st century prosecution office, but we will continue to reduce crime in our community by specifically working with all the stakeholders. And yes, that includes law enforcement, but that must include the community. That means that you have to be part of the way we do the work, as you have been for the last 4 years, and that will continue to be the case. My pledge to you will be that I will work tirelessly to make sure that you're safe, that we do not ever go back to the days of mass incarceration that this county was so much part of.
Thank you.
Ms.
Ramirez.
It's one of those days. Ramirez, it is day one. You've been elected. What are you doing to make the city, the county safer?
Yes, one of the priorities definitely has to be to establish protocols and policies that make public safety a number one priority. But what differentiates me, I think, from all of the other candidates is that I will prioritize establishing a mental health and homelessness division that attacks the issues that are affecting our communities the most, because we can never get to a position of true safety unless we address those particular issues. Today, the district attorney's office has done nothing within our office to address those issues. We have a mental health division that basically is sitting inactive to address these issues. One of the most important things will be for me to collaborate with other government agencies and community groups that have the expertise in these areas so that we can incorporate it into a public safety plan. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Siddall, what's the number one thing you'll do on day one that makes our city safer?
So 5 years ago, I worked on a project to target a gang called Blythe Street in the San Fernando Valley. This was a gang that had committed dozens and dozens of murders in the San Fernando Valley. What we did was we worked with law enforcement, we did early investigations, we indicted, and we eventually convicted most of these gang members who were the drivers of violence. But this is what we need to do, and that's what we did in this case. You target the drivers of violence. So this was a gang of 300 people. We targeted about 10 of those people. You don't need to go after everyone. You don't need to go after the entire gang. You need to go after the individuals who actually are the shot callers and the guys who use the guns. So what I'm going to do from day one is establish a division within our Bureau of Investigation that gathers intelligence as to who those drivers of violence are so that we can avoid mass incarceration, but keep us safe at the same time.
Deputy DA John McKinney, it's day one. What are you doing first to make us safer, sir?
When Dr. King last appeared in our great city back in March of 1968, he spoke of confused policies and confused priorities in our country. And that is the problem we're dealing with today in Los Angeles County. And the man standing next to me here is responsible for those confused policies and confused priorities. So on day one, I will bring a little light and clarity to the policies and priorities that should be important in the district attorney's office, starting with the men and women who work in the office, the men and women who are living on our street, LA City being the city with the largest homeless population, starting with our overcrowded jails. Someone has to bring some clarity to these issues and priority to public safety, priority to meaningful reforms that change the way people are living their lives. And I will set that in motion on my first day in office.
Thank you very much. Judge Archuleta?
Thank you. The first day in office, I will reverse the blanket policies that were implemented by George Gascon that have resulted in us being less safe. I'm looking right now at the executive summary of crime in California 2022, put up by the Department of Justice and Rob Bonta. You might have heard of him. He's the chief law enforcement officer for the state of California. Crime rates for 100,000 population 2022. Violent crime rate increased 6.1%. Property crime rates, homicide decreased 5%, larceny is up, burglary is up. Every single category of crime pursuant to our Attorney General, according to the report put out by the state of California, is up. When we look around the streets, do we feel safer? Some of you might, but by and large, people throughout the county of Los Angeles do not. We need to have individualized and particularized justice. We can't have blanket policies. By and large, the most violent crimes are committed by a very small slice of the pie of humanity, but they wreak the most havoc on our communities, our families, and our businesses. Thank you.
Our next question, former Assistant U.S. Attorney Jeff Chemerinsky, is this. Do you believe that disparities exist in the application of justice faced specifically by people of color? And if you believe that, how would you address that reality as DA, sir?
Thank you. I think it's an incredibly important question. I'm very committed to civil rights and issues of racial equality. To give the short answer, the answer is clearly yes. The numbers speak for themselves. In our country, African Americans make up 12% of the population, but 33% of our prison population. It's simply unacceptable, and we need to do better. I think there's a few things we can do to make sure we're better. One, we need to make sure that we're really fair in how we punish crime. I think mass incarceration simply isn't the answer. I think for too long, we've sent too many people to jail for too lengthy of sentences. Second, we need to do what we can for rehabilitation and reentry programs, to break the cycles, to make sure that people, when they're sent to jail, have the tools to not reoffend again. And third, we need to go out in the communities and empower people and provide the tools so that they have hope and don't resort to crime. I believe all of those things can help break some of these disparities that are so troubling.
Judge Milton, do disparities exist in application of justice faced by people of color? And if so, how would you address them?
I believe there is some disparity, but I think what's important here is to recognize what's happening in this country, and especially here in Los Angeles County, under the present district attorney's administration. The present district attorney is a master, an absolute master at pointing that racist, poisonous seed to divide us, to throw those issues off of this failed administration. There's something much larger going on in this country. We have a beautiful, constitutional, democratic republic. We need to protect it, and it's been taken away from us, and Americans better wake up. You can't just say, it's racist, it's racist, it's racist, and divide people and cause them to fight each other because of that assertion. It's a nasty thing that's going on here, and it's done by the present district attorney.
Speaking of the present district attorney, Mr. Gascon, do you believe that these disparities exist? What have you done, or what will you do if reelected to address them, if you believe so?
Yeah, the answer is yes, but I would start by saying that the best predictor of future performance is past performance. And when you look at my work history, not only as a district attorney in LA, but in prior assignments that I've had, I have been very focused in lowering the impact of mass incarceration and the impact that disproportionately affects the African American and the Latino community. Since I've been in office, we have reduced the levels of incarceration without impacting public safety. We've stopped sending mostly African American men and Latino to death row. We stopped sending hundreds of young black kids to adult prison. We stopped enhancing sentences where they do not bring any safety. And we're looking at law enforcement both as a partner, but also holding them accountable when they go out and use excessive force in our black community. And if I were to be elected, I will continue to do the work because that is work that I'm committed to do.
Ms. Ramirez, same question for you. Do disparities exist in the application of justice faced by people of color? And if so, how would you address them?
Anybody that lives in LA County and has grown up in the neighborhoods that we have grown up in understands and knows that there are racial disparities in criminal justice. Any district attorney that ignores that will not be able to address the issues that our communities face. And I think that that's why the district attorney's position has become more complicated today, because we are starting to understand the connection between criminal behavior and mental health illness and homelessness and economic situations that our communities find themselves in. So the district attorney has to be a multifold person to understand the reasons, the complexities of our communities, and to make sure that the laws that we are implementing are being implemented in a fair and equal manner, and be very involved with alternatives to incarceration and rehabilitation.
Mr. Siddall, same question. Do disparities exist? And if so, what are you going to do about it if elected?
They 1,000% exist. And I'm going to give you some numbers. 50% of the victims of murder in the past 40 years have been black men. There is an incredible disparity in victimization in our community. 35% of our homicide victims here in Los Angeles County are black. There is incredible victimization disparity. If you are a member of the Watts community, you are 35 times more likely to be victimized than if you live in Brentwood. The Compton court was flooded. I can guarantee you that type of infrastructure, you would never see that lack of infrastructure in places like Santa Monica or Long Beach or other parts of this community.
Thank you. Mr. McKinney, the same question for you. Do disparities exist in the application of justice faced by colored people? And if so, what would you do about it?
Absolutely. And I'm looking at the Black women in this audience, and in your faces, I see the face of my own sister. Black women make up 4% of the city and county's population, yet they account for 1/3 of victims of aggravated assault among women and 1/3 of homicide victims among women. And that's been true for a long time. And Mr. Gascon, standing next to me, has been district attorney for over 3 years. He hasn't addressed it. He hasn't even talked about it. He doesn't have a plan to address it. What we need is a turning of our attention to that problem in our community, which means appropriate and effective law enforcement, not just incarceration, but meaningful counseling and treatment, because a lot of that violence is coming from inside the home. And in our county jail, 75% of the largest county jail population in the country is Black and Latino, 75%. Black men, 4% of the population, 30% of the inmate population. That's unacceptable. It needs a plan. I have a plan for it. On day one, Tavis, I'm going to launch the first of its kind mentorship
it ain't working,
program.
brother. It ain't working.
All right.
It ain't working. But I give you points for trying. You tried, man. You tried, John. I ain't mad at you. I ain't mad at you.
Please give him the time.
Yeah, nothing beats a failure but a try. You tried it. All right, Judge, I'll let you the last person to speak on this question.
There are absolutely disparities within the community. I see it every day. I would sit in the Edelman Children's Court for the last 3.5 years, where 85% of the families, maybe 90% of the families that came before me in the foster care system were children of African American and Latino families with all of the attendant issues of domestic violence, drug abuse, homelessness, mental illness, etc. If I told you that I pulled less than 10 to 15 babies a week from their mothers born with fentanyl and methamphetamine in their system from women of color at the time of their birth, I would be lying. And since I'm a judge, I don't do that. But I can tell you there are disproportionate impacts in our community. Additionally, mass incarceration is one issue. Mass victimization is another. When I see women where I go to church at Ward AME up the street near USC, or I go to NASIA, my National Association of Equal Justice in America, I talk to women and men in the community. Black businesses, Black families, brown businesses, and brown families are disproportionately affected. So let's talk about victimization if we're going to talk about incarceration.
Thank you very much. All right. The next question again goes to Jeff Chemerinsky. Many of you say the reforms put in place to create more equity in the criminal justice system have led to an alarming uptick in crime, but there are statistics that show violent crimes, murders, and rapes specifically down 18-19% in Los Angeles. Can you share a specific case where you felt the reforms in place did not allow you to exact justice and failed to keep our community safe? Please be specific.
To me.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. I think the crime statistics tell an overall more complicated picture. What the crime statistics show is that overall, violent crime is down compared to last year, but it's up compared to pre-pandemic levels still. As to property crime is up. As to hate crimes are up. I think those numbers are why so many people in our community don't feel safe right now. As I talk to individuals and I talk to groups, what I hear over and over again is that people feel like the law isn't working in a way that makes sense. People feel like they're not safe, and people feel like there are no consequences. I think we need to do a much better job of making sure that people feel safe, that law enforcement is doing its job, and that we're collaborating with law enforcement to hold people accountable.
Judge Milton, same question. Are there so-called reforms that you think get in the way of applying justice in the way that you would pursue as DA?
Well, I think the stats might demonstrate a slight dip in murders in Los Angeles County of the hundreds of murders that occur annually, but that's due in part due to the pandemic. No one was around. Let me tell you what's really going on in this county and in this country. This is what's going on. You see that man in the middle? That's a billionaire. His name is Soros. He's funding Gascon. They're going to destroy this country. Can you see? These are soft on crime DAs placed throughout this country to dismantle us. They are trying to destroy this country. They want to open borders, empty the jails, get rid of the police, and take away your firearms so they can do this. This is socialism from Gascon to finally communism. And they're taking our country away from us, and we've got to protect it.
Before Giselle asks this question of Mr. Gascon, I'm going to ask the audience.
Order in the court.
The audience, please.
I should have brought my gavel.
Yeah, I'm going to ask the audience to cooperate with us and tone down in the back. And we are live on radio, and all that ambient sound makes it hard for the audience listening to hear the candidates. So please, I ask once again, you cooperate so the listening audience can hear these very important persons express themselves on these very important issues. Thank you for your cooperation. That said, Giselle Fernandez.
Mr. Gascon, obviously you'll want to respond to Mr. Melton, but can you identify a specific case where you feel that the reforms in place do not allow you to exact justice, or your office to exact justice, that's failed to keep our community safe?
I'm glad that you asked that question. And what you notice that you're going to hear a lot of rhetoric because they cannot come up with specific cases, because the reality is that reform has not increased crime in our community. We had an uptick in crime during the pandemic, as everybody else did in the country, and we're seeing that crime coming down. The reality is that reform does not cause crime. In fact, reform is good for public safety. The high rates of recidivism that we have in this country, because of the high rates of incarceration, have caused crime and insecurity. Hurt people, hurt other people, heal other people. And I tell you that we're in the work of healing our community. I am very proud and unapologetically about my work. It's kind of interesting that as somebody that ran away from communism in Cuba and family spent times in prison is being accused of being a communist. I couldn't help but laugh because it's so untrue.
Thank you.
Ms. Ramirez, you have been inside this office, obviously. Are there so-called reforms that you think are getting in the way of the DA doing his or her best work?
I would like to focus my answer on this question on our juvenile justice system and the reforms that were supposedly put in place by the current administration. By taking away the ability of us to choose to be able to try certain 17-year-olds as adults has resulted specifically in the release of individuals who have committed murder only after 5 or 10 years of serving time in prison. And that has to do because of the blanket policy not to allow juveniles to be transferred to adult court. You all remember the Hannah Tubbs case, that when that person was arrested was already 25, 26 years old. The decision not to try that person as adult resulted in that person being released and no accountability for that person's crimes. That is happening on a wide scale in the juvenile justice system. We are not doing anyone any good by ignoring the facts and the law.
Mr. Siddall, the same question for you.
So I think that question assumes that there have been reforms. And the fact is that George Gascon has basically rescinded almost every single reform that he implemented on day one. And that's the reality. If you are charged with a crime that is a high media case that happens in Beverly Hills, and there's multiple murders, you are going to get the full weight of the penal code thrown against you. If you are a victim or your family is a victim of a crime in Compton, and there's a specific case where there's 6 people that were murdered, you are not going to get full justice. So is there reform? No. There is an unequal application of the law in Los Angeles County because of George Gascon. Media cases, they get all the priority. Your other cases don't. especially here in Compton.
Deputy DA John McKinney, are there reforms or so-called reforms that you think are getting in the way of you doing your best job when you elected DA?
Yeah, well, we have to stop focusing so much on statistics, because a wise man once said, there are lies, there are damn lies, and then there are statistics. And whether crime is up or down depends on how wide you open the window, quite frankly. Dr. King instructed us that an injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So we have to look at these matters on a case-by-case basis. A young woman was pushing her infant in a stroller in Venice Beach. A young man drove his car directly into her, nearly killed both of them. And Mr. Gascon's response to that was to send him to a juvenile camp for 5 months and let him back out on the streets. And by the way, he had a prior conviction for poisoning 2 girls at school before that. Okay, that's not a plan for moving us forward in a world of proportional justice. And so blanket reforms, blanket policies, one-size-fits-all policies are not the answer. We need nuance, and that's what I intend to bring.
Judge Archuleta, the same question. Can you share a specific case where you felt the reforms in place did not allow you to exact justice?
As a matter of fact, I can. I listened to a debate or an interview, if you will, of the current DA on LA Progressive that I also participated in a couple weeks ago. And I have to tell you, I took 6 pages of notes listening to him. So let me talk about a specific case. A guy committed 5 follow-home robberies. He was released on the first 4. Why, you ask? Because the DA does not believe in appropriate bail for violent and serious offenders. On the 5th robbery, the defendant posted $500,000 bail, which was the money from all of the thefts he'd committed on the first 4 follow-home robberies. And because he had all this money to post bail, he got out. And what did he do, ladies and gentlemen? He killed somebody. He killed somebody. Why is that? Because this man does not believe in public safety and protecting you, me, your families, your children, your businesses, and your loved ones because of his ideology. Look it up. LA Progressive, George Gascon.
Thank you,
You're
Judge
welcome.
Archuleta. Let me move to, there's the line of the day. You're welcome, okay. Former
My mama
assistant-
raised me right.
Yeah. Former Assistant U.S. Attorney Jeff Chemerinsky, here's the next question that you will lead us off on, sir. Homelessness, I think most Angelenos agree, every poll, every survey, every study, we're all concerned about homelessness. It was the issue, as you recall, in the mayor's race. But I want to ask a different question, and that is, given that it is the city's most pressing, the county's most pressing issue, what role should the DA play, if any, in helping to address the homelessness crisis?
Thank you. Homelessness is the big humanitarian crisis in our area at this time. I believe the district attorney has an important role to play, but I'll first add the caveat that we're not going to prosecute our way out of homelessness. And we need to be really careful that we don't criminalize poverty. But what the DA can do is a few things. First, be a true leader at the table. Bring together people to come up with common sense and fair solutions to this crisis. Second, the DA's office can do a lot better job specifically in the places where homelessness interacts with the criminal justice system, and that often involves mental health and mental illness. The DA needs to be a true leader there. And what the DA can do is a few things. First, promote better rehabilitation and reentry programs. We need to do a lot better on those programs. Second, promote better policing when it comes to mental health and mental illness. Third, promote mental health courts.
Thank you. Now, same question for you, Judge Milton. What role should the DAs play in helping address the homelessness crisis?
I will not, under any circumstances, mislead you. The district attorney is a creature of statute. The Constitution provides that there shall be a district attorney in every county, and the government code provides the role of the district attorney is public prosecution. That's his role. The district attorney does not have discretion to use his budget for any homeless program. I sympathize with the homeless. It's not a crime to be homeless or a drug addict or any other class. That's not a crime. The district attorney does not have jurisdiction to do anything about homeless except perhaps lobby the Board of Supervisors and the legislature to make things better. The rest of these candidates can dance around that and try to pretend that the DA has jurisdiction to do something about homelessness, but he doesn't.
DA Gascon, tell me whether you agree or disagree with that, sir.
First of all, let's start from saying that one of the things that the district attorney should do is to cause no harm. And I can tell you, when I became the district attorney 3 years ago, we saw many policies in the office that actually were increasing homelessness by incarcerating people for driving without a license for short periods of time and for other very low-level offenses, where they would go in and out of jail, they would lose employment, they were unable to pay their rent, and they became houseless. The work of the district attorney is to look at the intersection between houselessness and when there are crimes and try to provide the right level of intervention, including when appropriate dealing with mental health issues, as I have been, working with the Board of Supervisors so that we will increase the number of mental health beds, which is now targeted to be 3,500 within the next few years, and continuing to work with other partners using the bully pulpit to make sure that we have appropriate services for those that need housing.
Deputy District Attorney Maria Ramirez, the same question for you.
Yes, homelessness is a very important issue, and the district attorney has to be involved in the discussions of what we are going to do with our criminal cases that involved an individual that is homeless, and in many of our cases, most of our cases, is suffering from mental health. I oversee the arson and explosives unit in our office, and many of our arson defendants have serious mental health issues, but they are also very dangerous. We currently do not have an option for the most serious offenders other than state prison, where they are not going to address their mental health issue. We certainly need beds, but the most important thing that we need in the district attorney's office is a leader that is going to incorporate knowledge about our homeless issue and mental health with our DAs so that they understand the issue, they know what options are available to them, and that we get very engaged in the discussion about it.
Mr. Siddall, the same question, sir. Homelessness, what would you do about it?
So dealing with the unhoused doesn't just mean about talking about it or advocating for public policy. The district attorney can actually do something about it, not with every person who is homeless, but with some. And so what I would do is I would expand the use of homeless courts, specifically the model that was used in Redondo Beach by the Redondo Beach City Attorney, Mike Webb. And what that does is every month they meet outdoors in a parking lot with a judge, a prosecutor, and a defense lawyer. But they also have every service provider there. So they will make sure that homeless people who are in this program actually get a license, get supportive housing. And the purpose is to graduate them eventually to permanent housing. That's how we could actually have a role, be engaged in a positive, thoughtful way.
Mr. McKinney, the same question for you.
If Dr. King were alive today, he'd be standing shoulder to shoulder with Mayor Bass, and they'd be standing shoulder to shoulder with me as the district attorney, and we'd be collaborating and tackling this problem together. This isn't just a housing problem, it's also a racial problem. There's an intersection here. 1 in 4 people on Skid Row are Black. Most of the deaths on Skid Row are Black men. We need a plan, and we need all hands on deck. And Mr. Gascon has had 3 years to impact this problem, and he had an opportunity to tell you what he's done. I must have missed that. But I can tell you right now, as DA, I will use the power of the law to leverage people inside. We got to get people inside first. I know the mayor is grappling with this, but once we get them inside, we can expose them to the services that they need. We're not going to punish this problem away, but we can use the law to guide them into housing and then the treatment that they need. I'm committed to that. I promise you that.
Judge Archuleta, can the DA do anything about homelessness?
Well, the DA stood up here and said his role is to cause no harm. We have 70,000 people living on the streets under tarps and tents under the County of Los Angeles. These are people's brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, wives, husbands, children. There's a lot of harm being caused on our streets. There's crime in these drug in these encampments because there's drug and human trafficking and sexual assaults going on in those encampments. Monday night, there was a little football game. Did anybody watch that football game last Monday night? Okay. I was in the Round Table Pizza in my neighborhood. There was a woman in my community that I recognized. She lives on the streets. She's about my age. I offered her my pizza on the way out because I only had 2 bites. And I asked her why she lives on the streets. I talked to this woman for 35 minutes. Her name was Catherine. She's lived on the streets for 13 years because she doesn't feel safe in shelters because she's been sexually abused, had her goods stolen, etc. She can't live on the tarts and temps of LA, and she can't live in the homeless shelters. We need to do something for Catherine.
Thank you. Our next question.
I think I'm entitled to a 10-second rebuttal.
Go ahead.
Why?
Again, the district, you've heard the comments, the district attorney has no jurisdiction to do anything about homelessness unless the homeless commits a crime.
We got it. Thank you, sir. All right.
All right. Our next question, again, we start with Jeff Chemerinsky. It is this. As we said, the DA's office here is the largest in the country, over 2,000 employees, a $500 million budget. There has clearly been a disconnect between the vision at the top and the ranks. What is your management style? How will you differentiate yourself from the rest, and how you will galvanize this department behind a unified vision? You've all mentioned collaborating with outside partners, et cetera, but specific to your management style to unify the ranks, what will that be? We start with you.
Thank you. Just recently, I was chief of the Violent and Organized Crime section at the United States Attorney's Office. In that role, I oversaw all violent and organized crime prosecutions, not just for LA County, but for 7 counties, LA County and 6 other counties, a population of 19 million people total. I had to work with law enforcement every day, and I did so successfully. I'm proud of the partnerships I built with law enforcement. I can tell you my management style, which is when I became chief of the Violent and Organized Crime section, I reached out to the different bureau chiefs throughout LAPD. I reached out to the different leaders throughout law enforcement. And I introduced myself and I listened to their problems, to their needs, to what I could do to address problems in their neighborhoods. As district attorney, I would take that same management approach. I'd work not just with leaders throughout the community and with law enforcement, but also in my office. I'd listen and I'd collaborate. I believe that our district attorney made a real mistake on day one with his blanket and abrupt policies, and I'd be a very different type of leader.
Judge Milton, tell us about your management style and how it would unify this office.
I've had 3 executive management positions of lawyers, chief assistant prosecutor in Indianapolis, state bar prosecutor, and as a deputy in charge of one of the area offices. I do not micromanage. I look at lawyers as professionals. They know what they're supposed to do. If I got into that office as DA, they would applaud. They would know, they know my reputation as a judge, fair-minded, law and order, but I'm a strict adherent to the law. I'm gonna let them do their jobs. And that's what they're there for. That's why we have the uproar, because the present district attorney won't let those deputies do their jobs. He won't let them file enhancements. This is offensive. Persons who enter in this country illegally, they come in and commit a crime. The president district attorney has instructed them not to charge them with the crime, but find some lesser crime for them to avoid deportation. What kind of upside down logic is that?
District Attorney George Gascon, same question for you. If reelected, how will you galvanize your ranks around you in a unified vision, which has been challenging?
Look, moving the culture of a large organization is not easy. We got into a place that has been decades of over-incarceration, over-punishment, an organization that actually rewarded punishing people excessively in order to get promoted. I came in with a very different mission, and it's a mission of shifting the culture of the organization. We have begun that process. I've hired over 85 prosecutors, and by the way, we've had about 500 people apply for the job. I sit on each of those final interviews because I want to make sure that we bring a different type of prosecutor to our office. Not only more diverse in color and gender, but also more diverse in thought. We have started promoting people. We have promoted over 100 people that are wanting to be promoted in the office because they believe in the direction that the office is going. It is true that there has been a lot of discourse in this area, but the organization is moving into a different direction, and I will continue to do the work accordingly.
Ms. Ramirez, as Giselle mentioned earlier, clearly there's some kind of disconnect between the vision at the top and at the ranks. I think that's borne out by the fact that there are at least 4 of you in the office running against your boss. So I want the same question. I just want to tweak it. What do y'all see on the inside that we don't see on the outside about however this department is run that you want to fix? Same question, but different framing.
You witnessed the very problem that exists with the leadership today in the district attorney's office, and that is that this district attorney does not know the people that work for him. To say that we do our job and we get promoted because all we care about is excessive punishment is an absolute lie. An absolute lie. And if he had taken the time to get to know us when he came in, to be a true leader has to listen, has to look at what they are leading and work with them, work with their strengths, work with their knowledge. Had he taken the time to get to know us, he would have known that we grew up in this very county, in Boyle Heights, where I grew up around violence, around people that were being incarcerated. Had he taken the time to get to know us, he would know that we care about our communities and doing the right thing. We need a strong leader in the district attorneys who's going to respect our employees and listen to them.
Mr. Siddall, the same question for you.
Thank you. For 10 years, I've had the honor and privilege of representing the line prosecutors in this office. And like I told you from the very beginning, I represent a new generation of prosecutors. That new generation of prosecutors does not believe anything about what George Gascon said they do. These are balanced, measured people. They are professionals. And he did not want to listen from day one. That is not leadership. For those past 10 years, I've seen the morale of this office plummet to such horrific levels that people are leaving. We have a 25% vacancy rate. We can't do our job because people don't want to join this office and people want to leave. Your prosecutors, your professional prosecutors do not want to work for this man, not because of his policies, but because of his management style, his gross, incompetent management style. And I mean that with no disrespect, Mr. Gascon.
John McKinney, you are one of those 4 persons inside the department running against your boss. Your management style, what's the disconnect between the top and the rank?
Yeah, I think chaos, confusion are the words that come to mind when I think about what's going on inside our office today. Morale has never been lower in the time that I've been there, and that's 25 years. Leadership of any organization starts with acknowledging and respecting the men and women who are going to be responsible for carrying out your vision. So you got to walk in the door, you got to convene them, you got to introduce yourself, you got to let them know the direction you want to go in, and then you have to rely on their expertise to help you get there. That's true leadership. We didn't get that from Mr. Gascon, as you've heard. He never introduced himself to us. He never gave us the benefit of the doubt of buying into some of his ideas and perhaps even telling him the path that you have laid out will not get you to where you want to go, but let me show you the path that will, because we are committed to justice for this community as much as anybody else.
Judge Archuleta, same question.
As a Latina female, I was hired in the district attorney's office as a law clerk in 1989. There's been much diversity that has grown increasingly in number. If you look at the stage, several of us either were in the office or in the office now, and we do come and represent communities of color. Morale is low and lawsuits are high. Ladies and gentlemen, your tax dollars are going to pay for lawsuits against the boss because he has made the work climate impossible. Many of the people in this race are suing him on behalf of either the union or themselves personally. That is not acceptable. He ruined the San Francisco District Attorney's office, and now he's decided to bring his same act down the 5 freeway to Los Angeles. which is why I have stepped down from the bench on an unpaid leave of absence to step up for the people, including my fellow former prosecutors. I got hired under Ira Reiner and left under Jackie Lacey. I have the privilege of working for many different administrations, and I've never seen it this bad, and my friends are begging me to come back as their boss.
Let me say to you that we are about to start our closing round. Everybody has a 60-second closing response in your own words, however you want to present. I do think it's fair, though, given that there are 4 persons running against you. I think the audience would love to hear your response, Dia Gascon. I'll give you 60 seconds as a follow-up to respond to what you've heard your colleagues say about your management style inside the department.
Look, when I was running for office, a lot of these folks were engaged in campaigning against me. The union put so much money into it that they run out of money. They have had to raise their dues twice. They tell you about vacancies that really do not exist. And the reality is that the folks that are here at the stage today are no different than many of the people that are around this country that have been part of the machine of mass incarceration for many, many years. When you look at the numbers that came out of this office for years, we own the majority of the people that are being incarcerated proportionally statewide because of the policies of this office. Now, I don't blame the men and women in the office for this. I blame the policies and the leadership, and that's why we're going into a different direction. We are getting a large number of people that want to come in from other county district attorney's office because they want to work here. You're hearing, quite frankly, a lot of misinformation across the board. But I understand that's a part of being in the campaign, and I accept that. That comes with the territory.
You know, there was a comment about the union, and I feel like I should be able to respond to that since I was the leader of the union.
You have your closing comment in just a moment. You can weave it in if you'd like.
Our closing comments go now in reverse order. Judge Archuleta, we begin with you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the reason so many of us are standing up here today is because despite the minority opinion of some of the people here in this room today, in my travels throughout the county of Los Angeles, if you look at the crime statistics, and I'm flattered that Mr. McKinney stole my line from one of the other debates about Mark Twain, so thank you, John. We are not safer now than we were 3 years ago. That's why we're here. Because we do not believe that under the current administration that the residents of the County of Los Angeles are safer. As I mentioned, he brought his brand of social justice reform from San Francisco. I don't know if anybody's been to San Francisco lately, but it's not the beautiful city by the bay that it used to be. Los Angeles has the World Cup in 2026 and the Olympics coming. I do not want our community to be an international embarrassment on the world stage because we cannot contain crime and homelessness and drug addiction. We allow our fellow citizens to live on the street. That's not what I want LA to be known for. I want it to be known to be safe, fair, and just for all. Thank you.
John McKinney, your 60-second closing comment, sir.
Okay, thank you. Hey, the last thing we need is a district attorney who falsely accuses a black man of theft, okay? Let me tell you this, in the 170-year history of the district attorney's office, you've never had a district attorney like me. I present a different kind of opportunity. Born into poverty, dealt a very bad hand early in life, played by the rules, avoided instant gratification, went to college, worked 50 hours a week by day, and went to school nights, weekends, and summers just to get my undergraduate degree and have the privilege of attending the UCLA School of Law. And after getting that degree, went into public service for 25 years, serving you right here in Los Angeles County. That's a special story, and it represents a special kind of leader, one with integrity and character, one who can help resolve these confused policies and confused priorities. Support John McKinney for District Attorney in 2024.
District Attorney Eric Siddall, your closing statement.
Thank you. You know, I'm a native Angelino. This community is extremely important to me. What is happening is personal. My dad was a deputy district attorney in the early 70s. My mother, who raised me as a single mother and 3 other boys, came here from Argentina, and Los Angeles has been very good to us. So I have much to give back. It is one of the reasons why I became a deputy district attorney. This, I think, is one of the most honorable jobs you can have. Every day we are called to only do one thing, to do justice, to represent and stand up for people who cannot stand up for themselves on the streets. It has been my honor and privilege to run for your district attorney. We have so much work to do. We have so much reform. But that reform requires someone with experience inside this office who knows how to build reasonable, sustainable reform that will keep us safe in the future.
Deputy DA Maria Ramirez, your closing comment.
You said my name right.
It only took me an hour and a half. I got it, so I got it.
Thank you, everyone, for having me again. I appreciate your time and your patience. I came here today for two main reasons. Number one, I wanted you to get to know me and who I am, and that I am born and raised in Los Angeles County, that I have the heart of Los Angeles County, that I care about our communities, that I care about making sure our communities thrive, that I have the passion, the experience within the office, over 30 years of dedicated public service to all of you. And the second reason that I came is that I wanted you to see that within the district attorney's office, we are not what Mr. Gascon has said we are, that we are people that care about justice, that care about engaging with you as our community to find better ways of making sure that criminal justice is fair and equally applied in our county so that we could actually make it better. That is the true meaning of reform. Thank you all very much.
Mr. Gascon, your closing statement.
Look, first of all, I want to thank you all for being here this morning. You know, I grew up not very far from here in a one-bedroom apartment, two parents that were working, one of them below minimum wage, the other one was working at minimum wage. I know what it's like to be poor. I know what it's like to be raised in a community like this. I care deeply about the safety of our community, but I also believe that it is impossible to have true safety unless we have equality, unless we have a fairness of treatment, unless we engage our community, who are our clients. Our clients are not necessarily anyone else but the people that we serve each and every day. And the work that I do each and every day is committed just to that, is to bring fairness into the system, is to bring safety that is not safety on the heels or on the backs of poor people in our community. And if I were honored to be reelected, I will continue to do the work that way.
Judge David S. Milton, your 60-second closing comment.
And yada, 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 yada. It's not he's engaged you in nothing but demagoguery here. Here's the real picture. This is what's going on. Let me tell you something, folks. This guy in the middle, he gave Gascon $2.5 million to defeat Jackie Lacey, a perfect DA for Los Angeles County, and he did it by pointing the poison pill of racism. That's what he does. That's what Soros does. He's doing it again, and you know what offends me the most about him? I'm not a rude person. I'm an engaging person. I like people. I like to shake hands. But you know what he's doing now? He's doing it again. He thinks that, the thing that's so offensive to me is he thinks black people are so intellectually inferior that he can get away with it again. He thinks he can get it by planting that nasty seed of racism. Him and Soros are trying to do it again.
Judge Milton, thank you. Mr. Chemerinsky, former Assistant U.S. Attorney, your closing comment, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you again to our host for hosting this and to you all for being here today. You've heard I'm an experienced prosecutor. I served as chief of the Violent and Organized Crime Section. I want to talk now about what I think I can accomplish as an energetic leader of the District Attorney's Office. I think the reality in this moment, there's so much that's broken within our county. And I believe the District Attorney is the leader of our justice system for the county, needs to take ownership and play a true leadership role on everything that's broken as it touches on the criminal justice system. I'll give you 3 or 4 examples of issues where I think we need real and energetic leadership. Juvenile justice. Our juvenile detention facilities are simply unacceptable. Just this week, there were headlines about 8 probation officers that were suspended while watching an assault at a juvenile detention facility. We need to do a lot better. Our county jails. Over 40 people died in county jail alone. The District Attorney of Los Angeles needs to play a true leadership role there. I believe that I can provide energetic and true leadership for the district attorney and for our county. I'm excited to take office and to tackle these issues.
A couple of housekeeping notes I want to give you in just a second. First of all, let me ask you to show your enthusiastic applause to all these candidates for showing up today at the Empowerment Congress 32nd Summit. Giselle and I thank you all for accepting the invitation from the Empowerment Congress to show up today. It starts with showing up and answering these tough questions, so we thank you for that, number one. Number two, if you're listening on KBLA Talk 1080 live right now, stay tuned. My colleague, Dr. Nicolai Corte, will grab these candidates as they come off the stage to get some initial thoughts and reactions to how they thought this gathering went today and how they thought they performed. So Nicolai Corte, stand by for that. Will take us to the top of the hour with some one-on-ones just off the stage here. I now yield to Giselle Fernandez from Spectrum News to tell you how you can watch excerpts from this forum in the coming days.
Yes, this candidate forum will be broadcast Friday on Spectrum News 1, January 19th, 8 p.m. Don't miss it.
All right, so thank you, Giselle. Great to work with you.
Great to work with you, TS.
I thank you. I appreciate that. We're going to ask the candidates now to come off the stage and file out this way, and you will meet Dr. Corte out in the lobby here, outside lobby for some
All righty, can I have everyone's attention? We're not quite done with the summit. Shh. If I can get everybody's attention, please take your seats or walk outside if you need to, but we're almost there. All right, thank you to Giselle and Tavis. Please join me in giving them a round of applause. I think that was my favorite debate ever, right? For 32 years, the Empowerment Congress Summit meets on the Saturday of the MLK holiday weekend. We are inspired by Dr. King's advocacy of social and economic justice and his commitment to nonviolent direct action and mass mobilization. Each summit is a testament to the vitality of the Empowerment Congress as an experiment in community-driven, neighborhood-based democratic participation and civic engagement. The willingness of elected officials to attend is one reflection of respect we have earned over the decades. We're not going to go through a list, but I know we have some other elected officials in the House who we did not come up earlier. So if they could just please stand up to be recognized. Do we have any elected officials that are still left in the House, or did they all leave? No? Right, I think they're all outside. Never mind. The idea that constituents should have a voice in the decisions that impact their daily lives is fundamental to governments. It is also revolutionary to those who think transformative change through activism is impossible. We lead by presence, principles, participation, practice, and example. Pursuing democratic justice through participatory democracy seeks to remind ourselves that our voices still matter through our vote, our advocacy and witness, our participation in the process of governance in pursuit of equity, and our constant evaluation of and challenge to systems that profess to work on our behalf and bring justice to our spaces. Participatory democracy may not always achieve justice, but justice cannot be achieved without democratic participation. Over the next several weeks, we will continue to enact our core mission to educate, engage, and empower, with opportunities for you to join our working groups in their advocacy for Los Angeles City Charter reform and providing solutions for homelessness. Participatory democracy is an evolving process that does not stop at the polls. It requires ongoing investment in challenging the status quo and holding ourselves and our representatives accountable for shaping the communities we deserve. Now I'll turn it over to the rest of my co-chairs. Thank you so much.
Please welcome Empowerment Congress Co-Chair, Harry McElroy.
Thank you, Sonia. I want to first say, go blue. The Empowerment Congress is full of leadership. Sonia and I are Wolverines, so I had to sneak that in. The Empowerment Congress mission is to educate, engage, and empower our members with tools to realize Dr. King's dream of a community committed to social and economic justice. But these tools only work when we act from informed opinions. Our electoral participation, like today's forum, along with strategic mobilization and mass presence at meetings, basically what I'm talking about is our civic engagement, gives voice to our aspirations and demands. Now, I also brought some visuals. This is a ballot. It is indispensable for civic engagement. Casting a vote is a prerequisite for empowerment and accountability. The saying goes, if you don't vote on Tuesday, don't complain on Wednesdays, right? Now, the cynics say our votes don't matter. But we have to ask, if our votes don't matter, why are so many people trying to take them away? The Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office is the largest prosecutorial office in the United States. We have a role to ensure that those people that came up on this stage are aligned with our views. So today's District Attorney's Forum was part of our mission to educate, engage, and empower so that you can learn where these officers stand and where they don't stand. Okay, grab onto your seats, because I'm gonna get real right now. We're here today for another very important reason. The desire to uphold the law has a mighty risk of misdirected prosecution, both intentional and unintentional. In cases of misdirected prosecution, our participation engages a system that is often intentionally confusing, hard to navigate, financially devastating, and designed to discourage justice. Consequently, part 2 of our program is a teach-in on the USA versus Mark Riley Thomas case. For many of us, that trial was the first time we attended a federal criminal court proceeding. We did so not for solidarity and support, but also for civic engagement. We observed how prosecutors engineered a shifting narrative and propagated disinformation that influenced the actions of others. And I'm gonna name some names, because we, at the Department of Congress, we tell it like it is. People like Nury Martinez, Bernard Parks, Mike Feuer, and Ron Gelperin. And we saw how the prosecutors sought to impose a harsh, vindictive sentence in a blatant disregard for constitutional rights of the defendant and the community. We learned a lot about implicit bias, prosecutory misconduct, inaccurate media coverage, and the coercive power of the government with its access to unlimited resources. In the USA versus Mark Riley Thomas case, we found that it was a case study about exaggerated claims of corruption and arbitrary power. So, today's teach-in, it will highlight the role public scrutiny of the judicial system can have on civil rights and the pursuit of justice. It will review the trial record and discuss MRT's appeal of his conviction and sentencing to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. It will also provide insight to the challenges and the obstacles that call the justice elements of our legal system into question. And let me say in closing, if you do not attend the teach-in, you will be doing yourself a serious injustice. Thank you.
Join me in welcoming Empowerment Congress Co-Chair, Gloria Davis.
Thank you. I promise to be brief, but I do have a prop, the evaluation for this event. So pull it out and let's start filling it out. We acknowledge the many volunteers who have helped us thrive over 30 years of advocacy and engagement. Today's summit offered us an opportunity to educate ourselves about the candidates running for the office of DA. What a lively forum. Learning about Dr. Mark Ridley Thomas' case and the federal appellate process, and networking. Nothing beat an old-fashioned neighbor-to-neighbor networking. I think that's what we had today. We have a passionate community of loyal supporters who energize our working groups and other mobilization efforts that encourage participation defined by fundamental challenges of truth, transparency, accountability, and power. We are grateful for their consistent presence, which enables us to make a lasting impact. We encourage your participation in this civic experiment by joining the Empowerment Congress today. Visit our website, www.empowermentcongress.org. Now, in recognition of our founding year, 1992, we kindly request you to donate $19.92 to help us sustain our work and achieve our results. So please open your program booklet and go to that scan bar. Once you get it, let me see your hand. All right, I see a lot of hands. The Empowerment Congress is a constituent-based organization first utilized by Dr. Mark Ridley Thomas to identify, to organize, and to communicate concerns and priorities. Currently, the Empowerment Congress is a project of the Community Initiative. The Empowerment Congress seeks to pursue justice through participatory democracy. Our working groups address the issues of homelessness, institutional reform, financial literacy, organization capacity building, representation, and diversity. And we engage policymakers and institutions that impact our lives. Please refer to your program booklet or see the above slide link or QR code to learn how you can donate. We need your support. Special thanks to our media partners, KBLA 1580, AM Talk Radio, and Spectrum One News. And we thank our organization's co-sponsors and partners who help produce this high-quality collaborative event that attracts new people into civic engagement. We also want to thank our co-hosts today, Candidate Forum, the NAACP Los Angeles branch, the AME Ministers Alliance, the Baptist Ministers Conference of Los Angeles, Southern California, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, Southern California, the American Civil Liberty Union of Southern California, and the District Attorney Accountability Coalition. You will receive a feedback survey by email, but we have some hard copies on site today. The first side is the candidate form and general feedback, and page 2 is the teach-in. In recognition, at this time, I would like to acknowledge the Empowerment Congress Leadership Council, who deliberately plans and steer our organizations onto a path of success. We thank them for their leadership to educate, engage, and empower. Please stand and be recognized. All right. Before adjourning to set up for the teach-in, on behalf of the Leadership Council, I would like to express our heartfelt gratitude to the Empowerment Congress co-chair, Sonia Vasquez, who will be stepping down from her post this year. She has done an outstanding job keeping us on track over the past several years. Please join us in a round of applause for Sonia. Sonia, will you come to the stage? We have a small token of our appreciation to you. Where's all the photographers? Oh, okay. So we're standing to the side. Okay. Oh, wow. Sonia, this feels like deja vu. We hope you stay around to help us. And I know you will. We really appreciate everything that you have done for the Empowerment Congress over the several years. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm not going anywhere. Thank you, everyone.
At this time, we will take a 10-minute break. This concludes our general session.